Hello, everyone, and welcome back once again to Immigration Talk Show. And this is where we have another very important webinar lined up for you. And you're going to be very interested because we are going to discuss about the April 2025 Visa Bulletin and also about some of the common frequently asked questions on H1B today. So we have this very interesting webinar lined up with none other than our guest who's going to join us. But before we head on to today's discussion, I have this very important disclaimer. And that is by watching our videos, you agree and understand that the information provided by our experts and attorneys, including comments and replies from users, is not legal advice. Use of information is at your own risk. With that said, and that in mind, friends, welcome once again to Immigration Talk Show. I'm going to be your host for today, and I am Nipasa. So thank you for joining us. Our handle is at Immigration Talk Show. We are streaming live right now on YouTube. So don't forget to subscribe to us if you haven't as yet already. And also, hit that bell icon so that whenever we have discussions, you are notified and that you can also join us. And you can do so by commenting. We are Immigration Talk Show. You can find us not only in YouTube, but also on LinkedIn, Facebook, X, and also on Instagram. So check us out, connect with us, follow us, and yes, you can also join us on call, by the way, if you want to ask your questions yourself with the attorney who's going to join us, to the attorney who's going to join us today. And you can do so by dialing this number 425-436-6335, and the access code is 988888. So, yes, without further ado, please help me welcome our guest attorney for today, Prashanthi Reddy, who is very frequent on our channel. Thank you so much, Prashanthi, for making time today as well. I hope you're doing great.
I am. Hope you're doing well as well, Ms. Nipasa.
Thank you, Prashanthi. I am. Yes, thank you for asking. So H1B season is on, and I'm sure that it's busy for you and for, the law offices of Prashanthi Reddy. Would you like to tell us how's it going with you?
It is busy, but we're more busy when we actually have to file the H1s. So June 31st is when we are really busy. Registration, some companies, do the registration on their own. Some companies use an attorney, and the registration process is simpler than the regular H1B process. So but having said that, since the you only have 2 weeks to file the registration, yeah, that does make us busy.
Yes. And I think last minutes are more busy, right? They come in with the late late
Correct.
filing.
Yes, there's always the last minute stragglers.
Yes, yes. Thank you, Prashanthi, for joining us today. I'm looking forward for today's discussion as we are going to discuss especially the frequently asked questions. And of course, the April 2025 Visa Bulletin is out. So maybe let's start with that. And yeah, I got this first question, Prashanthi, about the Visa Bulletin. If you can tell us about some of the significant changes which we see in the April 2025 Visa Bulletin as compared to the previous months, and how these changes will impact, the applicants across various visa categories, family or employment.
Yeah, so we've seen some good forward movement for EB3 India and a slight forward movement for EB2 India and some forward movement for EB1 India as well. So overall, we've seen some forward movement in this month, which is maybe a little surprising because we were not expecting this much forward movement uh, for EB. So we've always known EB3 is doing better than EB2. And EB1 is heavily backlogged, so it's going in that order. But let's just a quick snapshot of um, forward movement for April compared to March. So EB1 India has moved by 2 weeks. EB1 China, there's no change. EB1 rest of the world, there's no change. It's current anyway. EB2 India is moved by 1 month. Rest of the world has moved by 5 weeks. EB2 China has moved by 5 months, so that's a pretty significant forward movement for EB2 China. So unlike EB2 India, EB2 China is not as backlogged. EB3 India is moved by 2 months, so that's the maximum movement for any category this month. EB3 China has moved by 3 months, and EB3 rest of the world has also moved by 1 month. So the maximum movement is for EB2 China 5 months, and after that followed by EB3 India, which is 2 months, and EB3 China, which is 3 months. So the biggest news, of course, is retrogression for EB5. EB5 India has retrogressed by 2 years, and this is the unreserved category. EB5 China retrogressed by 2 years and 3 months, so more so than India, but we know China is EB5 category is used more by China than it is by India. But looks like India is catching up as well in the usage. EB5, rest of the world, unreserved, is current, and EB5 for rural high unemployment infrastructure, which is the set aside area, is current in all categories. So unreserved has moved by 2 years, 3 months for China, and 2 years moved back, retrogressed for India. So we see that the maximum retrogression for EB5 India and China, and we see forward movement in all categories for India. So 2 weeks for EB1, 1 month for EB2, and 2 months for EB3. So what can be done? And the other thing to keep in mind is also that they will be looking at the final action date table for employment-based and the dates for filing table for family-based. So if your date has passed the date that is mentioned in those tables, then you will be able to file your adjustment of status application. So just focusing on the employment-based cases, what should be done? If you're from India, obviously you should try. If you are EB2, you qualify for EB3 anyway, so you want to file for a new I-140, so that you will have an I-140 and EB3 as well. That way you will be able to take advantage of the forward movement in EB3 India. EB3 India is right now April 2013. And EB2 India is January 2013. So the same year, but EB3 has reached April, while India is EB2 is only in January. So they're 4 months apart. So if you want to file for an I-140 for to get an I-140 approved in EB3, and if you already have an approved I-140 in EB2, you can keep both, and then you can ask USCIS to use the I-140, which is the most current. EB1 India has moved up by 2 weeks, so if it's reached February 15, 2022, so if your priority date is that, then you can go ahead and file your adjustment of status. So if your dates are current, make sure you get your adjustment of status application prepared this month, and file it. Get your medicals prepared this month, and all your other documentation ready, and make sure you file it before the end of next month, because you don't know whether the cases will continue to be current or they will retrogress the following month. You will, of course, know that by about the 10th or the 15th of the following month, April, with reference to May. So you'll also have a better idea at that point. But I would say don't take the risk. Prepare everything, especially the medicals, and then file if you can for next month if you're current. Also, you have to keep in mind that you need to have birth certificates, and if you don't have birth certificates, get non-availability certificates from your country of origin, and also get secondary evidence such as birth affidavits, school leaving certificates, letter from your hospital, etc. These are the two most important documents: birth certificate and medicals, that you would need to look into. The rest of the documents you might already have. So that's, yeah, on that, Nipasa, we can go to the next question.
Sure, absolutely. Thank you so much, Prashanthi, for giving us the highlights of the 2026 April Visa Bulletin. So, all the best to folks. I know the wait has been long. For some of you all, congratulations. It's finally current now, and you can apply for your adjustment of status. But all in all, I think we still have to be patient, especially for these countries who have been in the list for quite some time now, especially India, China, Philippines, Mexico. So yes, talking about the visa bulletin again, Prashanthi, there is retrogression also that we are seeing. So if you could tell us what could be some of the reasons behind the retrogression which we observe in the EB5 category, the unreserved category for China and India.
Well, the retrogression, any retrogression is because of high demand. And, as the EB2 and EB3 dates get more and more backlogged, especially for India and China, as we are seeing that it's 2013, you will see that there'll be more and more people trying to file or qualify for EB5 investor visa. And so that's what's pretty much happening. But unfortunately now, that I mean, it still moved from 2022 to 2019, but it's still better than 2013. So you will definitely see high demand for EB5, even though the amount, I mean, they've gone increasing the amount of investment. You will still continue to see high demand simply because the other dates are not, categories are so backlogged.
Right, right. Thank you so much, Prashanthi. And I would just like to say hi to Unnati. Thank you for joining us, Unnati. We will address your questions, but stay with us, all right? And today we are discussing about H1B registration and the April visa bulletin. So we are going to discuss about some of the frequently asked questions for H1B, and stay with us. If you have any questions also, please feel free to join us to ask your question yourself on this phone number that is displayed on the screen. And the number is 425-436-6335, and the access code is 988-888. But also, otherwise, you can comment and we will take them up. So, Prashanthi, my next question to you would be if, for folks out there, who want to be able to interpret the final action dates and the dates for filing in the April 2025 Visa Bulletin, what strategies should they consider if their priority dates are approaching and if they have become current now? What should they do next?
Like I was saying previously, I mean, if they're approaching, if they're current, I mean, it's a no-brainer. You should go ahead and prepare your documents now and, submit your documents. If they're approaching, then I would say might be a good idea to keep documents ready. Remember that you can no longer file your 485 without medicals. They will be returned to you. But um, uh, you can get your medicals done. Of course, medicals may become invalid after a year, so make sure you don't do it too much in advance. But you can definitely get your birth certificate in order, because especially if you don't have a birth certificate, or if first of all, if you don't have a birth certificate, then you'll have to get a non-availability certificate from your from the district or the from your hometown where you were born, and that non-availability certificate will have to say that your birth was never registered, or there's no record of registration of your birth in their database. And that usually takes some time. And in addition to that, you'll have to get your secondary evidence. That is, get either a new birth certificate made, like a new, but which is registered presently. In which case, if you have a birth certificate that is presently registered, then in lieu of the non-availability certificate, you can also do a new birth certificate. But if you get that, you'll anyway have to get secondary evidence. That is, letter from the priest, letter from the hospital where you were born, school leaving certificate, affidavits from people who know of your birth. or who were present at your birth at the time of your birth. So all this takes time. So my suggestion is get everything ready in time. If you are using an attorney, which I suggest you do, contact your attorney ahead of time because they might be busy as well, and inform them that you're expecting your dates to become current or they've already become current so that they can start their preparation work ahead of time. And they'll give you a list of documents that's needed so that you can get those documents ready and see if you have all the documents ready ahead of time as well.
Absolutely, friends. And you can also contact Attorney Prashanthi Reddy for the same. Maybe send her an email or give her a call on her number. And her number, um, and her contact details as well is here 212-354-1010. And you can also email Prashanthi at reddyesq.com or go visit www.reddyesq.com to get to know more about Attorney Prashanthi Reddy. And so, Prashanthi, I have another question about the Visa Bulletin. And if you could, of course, the current trends and if there are any forward movement, that is in the oversubscribed categories as well, since you've already mentioned about some of the movements, 2 weeks, 2 months, or, well, even the significant backlogs that we see. So, how can they plan ahead, in terms of immigration strategies for applicants out there?
Well, then you should move to the categories which are not as oversubscribed. Depending on which country you're from, for India, that would be EB5 or that would be EB1. And as I said, if you have cases in EB2, you automatically qualify for EB3 as well. So you should file for the uh, filing from downgrading from EB2 to EB3. Instead of filing an amendment, my suggestion is to file a new I-140. That way, you have two I-140s, one for EB3 and one for EB2, and you can toggle between the both of them depending on what the priority dates look like, because we see that sometimes EB3 is backlogged and sometimes we see EB2 is backlogged. Uh, so that keeps changing. The reason now why EB2 is more backlogged than EB3 is because a lot of people who are filing are people who have come here on an F1 and have done their master's degree here. So most of them have a master's degree, and they have, the job requires a master's degree, and that's why a lot of people file in EB2. But it might make more sense now if you're filing a new perm, even though you qualify for EB2, maybe it might make sense to qualify to file in EB3 or maybe file for, as I said, two I-140s so that you have both. But remember, if you file your perm in EB3, then you don't qualify for EB2. But if you file in EB2, then you automatically would qualify for EB3 as well. Because the requirements are always lesser for EB3 and more for EB2. So while you can go up, you cannot go down, right? So try to toggle your applications between the two and EB3 and EB2. Also, see if you qualify for EB1. There's no purpose in doing an EB2 national interest waiver. A lot of people try to do that because that might be the easiest one to get, but the EB2 national interest waiver is advantageous only if you don't have an employer or if your employer is not willing to sponsor your green card. Then you need to check and see if you qualify for an EB2 NIW, but otherwise it makes more sense to do an EB1. EB1 could be, you could do it if you are extraordinary ability in the arts, sciences, business, etc., STEM. But remember, not many people qualify. It's obviously only for the top uh, people who have an extraordinary ability in that particular category. If you're a regular software developer, then you don't qualify. You have to be an extraordinary person within your field, having received awards, memberships, being judged other people or done research. If you could also do EB1 researcher category if you're a researcher, if you've had several publications and if you have patents on your name, etc., etc., then you can definitely look into the EB1 extraordinary ability category. The other EB1 that you can look into is the multinational executive. So if you have worked as a multinational, as an executive for your company abroad, and if they have a company, qualifying company in the US that is either a subsidiary or a branch or an associate of their company abroad, and if you're going to be working for the same in the same position of an executive or a manager, then you could possibly look at the EB1 multinational executive category. So a lot of people on an L1A would qualify for the EB1 multinational executive. While the EB1 is backlog 2022, but it's still better than the EB2 and EB3, which is 2013. So this is what I would do. Try to see if you qualify under any of the other categories and file your application in those categories, or at least file under EB3 if you have an EB2, because you would definitely qualify for EB3.
Right. So, friends, H1B is not just your only option. And to know, which other option do you have, I think it's always best to consult with an expert, and attorney would be best for you. And why not contact attorney Prashanthi Reddy? Her details are scrolling on the screen already. Note it down and give her a call or send her a mail. And I think at this moment, Prashanthi, I would like to take up Abdul's question, since I think it is urgent. So he's saying, I just received RFEs on my H1B petition for fiscal year 2025. Please, what are my chances of my case being approved after responding to the RFEs?
It depends on the RFE. Um, it is not it is not surprising to get an RFE, so there's no need to panic. RFEs, you can get it for various reasons. If you can share more information about what the RFE is about, maybe we can give you a more in-depth analysis. But um, really, if you've maintained your status and you're able to respond to um, all what is being asked in the RFE, then you should not have a problem getting it approved.
Mhm. Okay. It'll of course depend on what the RFEs are about as well. So maybe Abdul, you can tell us more details if you can now in the show itself. Otherwise, it's best if you can email prashanthi@reddyesq.com. Or you can even email me and I could direct it to attorney. And my email address is nipa@staffingly.com. Okay, so we have Ravinder also joining us. Ma'am, how to apply for H1B visa? Now, this is a very vast question, but Prashanti, if you want to quickly maybe address to this as well.
Uh, well, you have to have an employer that's willing to uh, who that has given you a job and that's willing to sponsor you, and the job should be a specialty occupation. Specialty occupation means the job should require industry-wide a bachelor's degree in a specific field. Yeah, then you have to apply for the registration, because if you've never applied for a H1 before, it comes under new cap petition. The registration is opening up, and we're going to be talking about the registration soon. It's already opened up on March 7th, closing on the 24th. So you have to apply for a registration. If it gets picked, then if your number gets picked in the lottery, if your name gets picked in the lottery, then you can apply for the H1B, and you'd have to do that within 90 days.
There you go, Ravinder, you've got it. I hope you've noted it down, but even if not, you can watch this again and take your notes down. So thank you for joining us. And why don't you call us, call us on this number to ask your questions yourself. And the number is 425-436-6335, and the access code is 988888. All right. So this next one is from your channel, Prashanthi, and this is from Sriva asking, based on April Visa Bulletin, when can PD January 2014 be current on EB3 or EB2 for India? Thank you.
I wish I had a looking glass which would tell me what the future looked like, but unfortunately, I don't. So your guess is as good as mine. If they're working on 2013 April, then for them to move that many months, I think it's going to take time unless something happens and we see rapid forward movement. I think we will see a slow forward movement um, of a few months at a time, and there may be some months that you will not see any forward movement. So it may
Mhm.
not happen. It may not even happen this year. So wait and see.
Right. And Sriva, so true. I think we are all wishing that we could really see what the future would look like and wish we could really tell you the exact wait time and everything. But I think we'll just have to be lucky on the same side now. And she's asking another question. Can there be site visit for people on green card EAD? Have you seen any?
Not really. Haven't seen site visits for GCEAD. But having said that, if you filed a 485 and if your 485 is not for future employment and you're presently working for that company, you should, make sure that you have an employer always attached to your, 485 application. You could be on an EAD, and you can work for more than one company on an EAD, but you should work for the company that's petitioned your 485. If you're not, then do an AC-21, change the employer if the job is similar, and then can work for that new employer after doing the AC-21. So make sure you're always maintaining your status on that 485. It's possible that the 485 could be for a future job offer, but if you're not working for that company after getting the EAD, then sometimes, especially if there's an interview or some stage of that at the 485, they might ask why you're actually not working for the employer that petitioned you, even though you have an EAD to work for them. So you'd have to have a proper reasoning behind that. But usually, no, there are no site visits as they are for a H1, as they're as these are the only requirements that have to be fulfilled. There's no requirements, H1 requirements or similar requirements to H1 that have to be fulfilled.
Okay. Okay, Sriva, thank you for joining us with your question, and I hope that you've gotten your answers. And Ravinder, by the way, says, okay, ma'am, thank you. So thank you, Ravinder, also, and all the best. Seems like you are going to apply this time for your H1B visa. So I hope you make it through the lottery. And Prashanthi, let's get to some of the questions, which would be some frequently asked questions on H1B registrations. So, this first one that I want to ask is, on what website or platform will USCIS host the electronic H1B registration process?
Well, USCIS, okay, let me first start with a little bit a background on H1B registration. As you know, there's a cap on the H1Bs, so we have 65,000 for bachelor's degree holders, and 20,000 for masters, US masters degree holders. So there's a total, that's the total H1B cap. And since the cap gets filled very quickly, they've come up with, it's always oversubscribed really. So they've come up with a process whereby if they receive more applications, then they can hold a lottery. So they have a lottery system, and the lottery system, the registration to enter into the lottery has opened on March 7th and will close on the 24th. The results of the lottery will be known on the 31st of March, and then you'll be able to file your H1 from April 1st if it gets picked. This year, the lottery, as the same as last year, is beneficiary centric, meaning that based on your passport, you'll get only one entry into the lottery, even if you do 10 registrations or more than one registration. Also, the fee has increased this year to $215. So you see a 200% increase in the fees this year. And also, as of last year, we have new organizational accounts, um, which have the ability to do many more things when compared to the previous registration periods. So there are organizational accounts allow multiple people to log in at the same time. They have a way of checking duplicates. As you know, you cannot file a duplicate registration for the same person. If you do, then all the registrations become invalid. Um, they allow you to populate certain information on the form. So it's pretty cool, the new organizational registration system. But anyway, to answer your question, you have to go to the My USCIS online portal to and open an organizational account to be able to register for your lottery this year. So you have to first log in to your um, account. If you're doing it for the first time, make sure that you open the account, register the account first, and then log into it. And remember to use the same email ID that you used to open the account to log in when you're logging into uh, your account. And there's a lot of information on how to create a USCIS online account, on the USCIS portal.
There you go. Thank you so much, Prashanthi, for telling us about the H1B registration process and some of the latest updates as well. And we have Ravinder who's back again with another question, and let's quickly take it up. He's asking, ma'am, by profession, I am a teacher from last 5 to 6 months. I don't have any other experience in teaching. Can I apply for H1B?
Um, depends on the job that you're getting. If you're getting a job as a teacher, and if a teaching job requires a license in that particular state, then you need to get the license. You have to fulfill the requirements.
Yes.
You have to have a bachelor's degree in education or a related field. Um, Depending on what, go to Dice, go to Monster, see what educational requirements are there for a teacher in the US. Also, if it's available, go to the Department of Labor website, the Occupational Outlook Handbook, and see what they say about teachers there, and see what the educational requirements are. If the educational requirement is a bachelor's in education, then obviously maybe you would need that. Or if it's a bachelor's degree uh, in the specific subject that you're teaching, then if you have that, then you might be good. But look into the licensing requirement as well.
Right. Thank you, Prashanthi, for taking that up. And Ravinder, thank you for participating with your
So
question.
as far as I
Yeah.
know, as far as I know, public schools might require a license, maybe private schools don't. Um, so again, you need to look into it depending on which state that you're working in.
Absolutely. And Ravinder, why not collect more experience maybe? But if there is a job waiting for you in the United States, then of course. Ravinder is also adding, saying that he's a double MSc and a B.Ed. So that adds.
Yeah, if he has a bachelor's in education, yeah, he might qualify for a teacher. But again, look at the requirements for the particular state where you're going to work and see if there's a license required.
Right. So all the best, Ravinder. And yeah, let's go on to our next question, Prashanthi. And if you can tell us if, can a petitioner or an employer or a registrant use the same email for two different My USCIS account types?
No, you have to have a unique email address. So you can, being one company, you can of course, um, have two different accounts, because maybe, I don't know, for whatever reason, maybe there's one account that you want to use. One branch is using, one group is using one account, and the other group wants to use another account, but make sure that there are no duplicates, because if you have two separate accounts, there's no way of checking duplicates unless you do that on your own.
Mhm.
But if you want to open two separate accounts, then you'll have to use a different email address for the two different accounts, because each account has to have its own email address. If you try to use the same email address for and try to open another account, it won't let you do that. So make sure, and also each account has to have their own designated company user as the administrator. So that there has to be a different person administering each account, and there has to be two different emails used for each account.
Okay. Very interesting. Thank you so much, Prashanthi, for taking that up. And we got another question from our audience, and this is from your channel actually. And this is from Manjot Singh asking, hello, ma'am. My name is Manjot Singh. I'm from India. My visa category is F4. My PD is 7th of April 2007 from India. How much time for welcome letter?
Again, we cannot really say how long it's going to take. He says that visa category is, yeah, F4. Yeah, we can't say how long it'll
Yeah.
take. Very difficult. F4 is the most backlogged category. It could take several years. I need to look at the visa bulletin to see what F4 is right now. I don't remember, but it hasn't reached 2007, and it might take some time before it does.
Okay. All right, control. If you want to display also, like if you can display the April visa bulletin, we can just quickly check it out.
Yeah,
Uh,
make sure you display it for 2025,
F4
April.
category. Let's go to the family based. Scroll down. There'll be a table.
This is 2024. This is 2024.
Okay.
Yeah, there you go. There you go.
F4.
So F4 is,
Could you zoom in a bit?
here it is. It's 2000. Yeah. For India, it's 2006.
Hmm.
Is this the final action date or the dates for filing?
Final action.
Final action date. And can we see the dates for filing?
There, there. Yeah. F4. Please zoom in a little bit. Control.
Yeah,
2006. So
one
almost the
minute, ma'am. I'm
same.
just zooming in.
It's 2006.
Yes, ma'am. This is it.
It's 2006 for pretty much
Yeah.
both. And his is 2007. So it's about a year away, but doesn't mean that, every month there is a movement in the cases. Sometimes it moves for 2, 3 months. Sometimes it only moves for a week.
Mhm.
We haven't seen any much movement in the F4 category in the last few months. So I don't think it'll definitely take more than a year again, unless some event happens where the numbers are not being used or something like that happens, and suddenly you see a forward movement.
Right, right. Right now, F4 is 1st October 2006, and which is current. Thank you, Manjot Singh. But it's really hard to predict, how long will you have to wait for your welcome letter?
Definitely more than a year.
Yeah,
Yeah, definitely more than a year, maybe a few years, unless
really
something
happy.
happens or there's some new law that is passed, etc.
Yeah. But all the best. Thank you, Manjot Singh, for joining us. And yeah, let's go on to our next question. Prashanthi, if you could also tell us, if a company has multiple entities, maybe, for example, subsidiary, affiliate, and parent. So can each entity submit a registration if they have a federal employer identification number, FEIN?
Yes, they're allowed to, each organization is a separate organization, so they can definitely submit their own registrations, but you have to remember that if they submit the um, registration for the same beneficiary, it could be considered to be collusion. I'm not saying that they can't, but as long as there is a legitimate business need for by each of the petitioners, and there is a separate and real job opportunity, meaning there's an independent job opportunity that each company has, and it's not for the same job, then they can definitely submit also registration for the same beneficiary as well. They have to show that there's, of course, an independent, legitimate business need. Otherwise, USCIS might, they will definitely put it into the lottery, but even after approval, or maybe they might send an intent to revoke or intent to deny if there is an RFE, if they find out that they're related entities and it's the same beneficiary.
Okay.
But USCIS has recently indicated that um, multiple entities or employers may register um, or may designate one user to act as a signatory for multiple entities,
Mhm.
but a separate email address would be needed uh, for that administrator in the My USCIS account. So you can use the same person,
Mhm.
but you'll have to use a different email address for that person
Okay.
if you want them there to be an administrator in all the accounts.
Okay. So different emails.
Correct.
Thank you, Prashanthi. Thank you. And so says Manjot Singh. He says, "Thank you, ma'am." And we should quickly take up Mook TV's question as well. How to find employees once created account? So
How to find
I think
employees.
so. The employee had once created an account, and how to find that account? How to find
Oh, I don't know. Can you please elaborate on your question?
Yes, Mook TV, we would like to know what exactly do you really want to know. But thank you for participating. Looking forward for more clarification on your question. We have Venkata now, again on your channel, Prashanthi. And Venkata is asking, how many H1B Cap registrations will be applied for fiscal year 2026? Any guess?
Maybe about 100 and something, 100,000 or 120,000. Because last year and the years before we've seen around that number. Last year there were two lotteries, and the reason that even though they're only 85,000, they choose about 100,000 plus is because they expect that some people who get picked in the lottery will not ultimately file their H1, or it could be that the H1 will get denied. So that's why they usually pick more registrations than are numbers available.
But we never know since there is quite a hike in the fee. So let's see what happens. But yes, friends, I would say stay with us, subscribe to us. We'll be the first one to let you know, and you can do so by subscribing to our channel. Our handle is Immigration Talk Show. Thank you, Venkata, for your question. Now, we should also address some of our questions from our Facebook group. So, if control, you can display them also. And meanwhile, Prashanthi, if you could also take up another frequently asked question, which is, what information is required for the electronic registration process?
Yeah, for the electronic registration process, it's some basic information needed. You need the name of the company's organization, the legal name, the doing business's name, also the FEIN number or the Federal Employer Identification Number, the office mailing address, uh, and the name, the last name, first name, middle name of the contact at the office, and their phone number as well of the authorized signatory, the contact information, the name, phone number, email address of the authorized signatory. For the beneficiary, you need their name, gender, date of birth. um, if they're master's cap, then make sure that they actually have a master's degree that um, that fulfills the requirement of a master's cap. Not any master's degree will fulfill it. It has to be a non-profit public organization. Um, you need the beneficiary's country of birth, their country of citizenship, their passport or travel document number, and also very, very important, there are no exceptions to this. The passport must be valid at the time of the H1B registration. And also, please note if you've done the registration before for a beneficiary, the system will not allow you to reuse that information. You'll have to enter all the information again. So it's important that you have all this information uh, handy before you start the application. Remember that the application will time out in 15 minutes
Okay.
if you don't enter the information, but you should be able to save the information so that you can come back to it later.
Mhm.
Um, and also, you have to make sure that the passport that you use is the same passport listed in the H1B petition. But at times, USCIS may allow a different passport to be used when you're filing the H1B petition under some permitted limited circumstances, such as if there's a change in the legal name due to a marriage, if there's a change in the gender, change in the passport number because, or the expiration date because a new passport was obtained, or if the passport was lost and there's a or stolen and there's a replacement passport obtained. So you have to show all that to show why you're using a new passport, and then they might allow a new passport to be used.
Okay, okay. So things to keep in mind, and I hope that folks out there are, taking notes. And also about the information, what about the offered position? Does it need to be also provided as part of the electronic H1B registration process?
No, you don't have to provide the job title in the registration process, but it might make sense to figure out what your job title is and what the minimum job requirements are, and to see if the beneficiary qualifies for that position, and to see if your business requires such a position. Because once you do the registration, and if it gets picked, then if you are not able to file the H1, it might be a frivolous registration, and USCIS might come after you for filing a frivolous registration. So, in order to avoid that, you need to look into any questions of approvability of the H1B petition if the registration is picked. And so, going through the minimum job requirements and the job title might be a good thing to do.
Okay. Thank you, Prashanthi, for addressing that. And Venkata also says thank you. Thank you, Venkata. And now, Control, if you can also display some of our Facebook group questions that we have. Let's start off with this first one, which is from an anonymous participant. So, Prashanthi, hi. Did someone get an RFE recently from their H1B renewal visa interview? And trying to understand how long uh, the whole process takes for getting the visa stamp after the initial RFE.
So, it's not called an RFE, it's called administrative processing.
Okay.
So, usually they don't give you the visa right away. They return your passport and put you into administrative processing, where they cross check whether the job is available, whether the employer still has the job. They contact the employer. If there's a client involved in a consulting scenario, they contact the client to see if that job is still offered. And if they get a favorable feedback, then they will, send you a notification asking you to come back
Mhm.
or send your passport for stamping.
Mhm.
Administrative processing can take from a few months, and sometimes, in the worst case scenario, it even takes a few years. I've seen administrative processing cases pending for, 1 year, 2 years as well. But usually, it shouldn't take more than 6 months to a year.
Okay. Thank you, anonymous participant, for your question. And let's go on to our next one. So, hello everyone. I had my H1B visa interview last year in June. After the interview, they requested me to submit a few documents in soft copy. It has now been almost 9 months and I haven't received any response. Could someone guide me on what should I do next? I applied from Islamabad, Pakistan. Thanks.
So, one thing to remember is that there might be a travel ban very soon. That is implemented by the Trump administration, and they might include Pakistan as part of that travel ban. If that happens, then even if you have a visa, you will not be able to
Travel.
travel to the U.S. Or they might, so from what has been informed to us, that there are several categories to these travel bans. There are red countries, yellow country, orange countries. So depending on the color that they have given that particular country, they're expecting Pakistan to be red, but if it isn't, if it's orange or yellow, then there might be extreme vetting on the visa process, and that and already there is extreme vetting, especially for some countries, and that could be a reason why it's taking longer, or it could just be that they're following their regular administrative processing time and they're trying to find out whether the job exists or not, and they've contacted your employer. So you have to call your employer or connect with your employer to see if they have received any communication from the Department of State with reference to your visa.
Okay.
And as I said, this they might be waiting for information and doing further investigation. Once they have that, then they will get back to you. It shouldn't take more than a year, but sometimes, as I said, it can take longer.
Right, right. Well, about the travel ban, what if there are folks already from Pakistan in United States? Are they also going to face any sort of issues or problems, Prashanthi?
If they're already in the US, then there's no travel ban. But if they travel and leave the country, then they will not be allowed back, depending on
Okay,
what the
verdict.
final travel bans is. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, anonymous participant.
And this could be from other countries as well. Even last year they imposed a travel ban,
Hmm.
uh, but I don't think Pakistan was part of it. But it was imposed for some other Muslim countries, Afghanistan, Iran, and some other countries as well, Syria, Libya, etc.
Hmm.
So we have to wait and see which countries are included in the travel ban this time.
Right, right. So remember the colors as well: red, yellow, orange, and see which country you're from. Thank you so much. And Control, if you can also display maybe the country list in a while, that'll be nice. Moving on to our
At least the tentative. So we don't have an actual country list, but this is the
tentative.
tentative one that the newspapers have reported based on what the information they have received from, reliable
Mhm.
sources. Just something to keep in mind.
Right. Right, Prashanti, thank you. Thank you. And this next question is, my first H1B stamping was outside India. I am within 12 months of my last H1B visa expiry. I never had an H1B stamping done in India. Am I eligible for Dropbox in India?
Yes, and as you have rightly pointed out, the visa interview waiver has been changed from, I believe, 48 months to 12 months. And they did this without any notice and comment period. They did this just suddenly, just by notifying. I mean, a lot of people just missed it because it was just on their
Hmm.
website. They didn't even publish it in any news outlet or anything like that. So it was just on their individual websites.
Hmm.
So a lot of people were really um, surprised to see that they were called in for an interview after being
Hmm.
um qualifying for a Dropbox. But the question here is, I never had my am I eligible? You are, but remember, it's still discretionary, even if it's within 12 months. They can still call you in for an interview. The visa interview waiver is a discretionary process, and they might use that discretion now more strictly. They've always used it liberally and they've allowed for Dropbox, but now maybe they'll move away from that
Right.
because there is more vetting under the Trump administration, and he said, as per his executive order, that there should be more vetting, extreme vetting for visa applicants.
Right, right. So, thank you, Prashanti, for taking this up. And we also have another question. So, let's address that as well. This is, please advise me on this situation. So, I entered US on new H1B and my employer didn't run payroll for nearly 3 months since I didn't have any job from the client side. Then, when I got job from the fourth month onwards, my payroll started running. Will I have any problem because of this during my H1B renewal or stamping? Thank you.
Yes, even if you didn't have a social security number and they had to delay the payroll until you got a social security number, they should be paying you back wages from the time that you
Joined.
entered the country and joined the company, so you will definitely have issues if they find out. And now, as per the new H1B regulations, you have to submit upfront documents to show status.
Mhm.
And status means that they might require you to show status for the entire period of the H1. And if that is the case, they'll ask for pay stubs from, all the months. So it depends on, of course, when you're filing for your renewal and what information they ask. And also the W-2 will show a lower amount.
Mhm.
So yeah, all in all, it is problematic. You should try and resolve that with your employer.
Absolutely. And I don't think it's fair or even acceptable when they don't pay you. So, yes, I think you should do more research, Mr. Or Miss Anonymous member. Thank you for your question. But thank you, Prashanthi, also for taking this up. Now, I'd like to address this one from the LinkedIn user asking if there's a promotion and no change in job duties during perm process, does it require to be refiled?
Well, during the perm, yes, because when you're filing the I-140, you'd have to show the same job position. If it's after the approval of the I-140 and 6 months of the 485 being filed, then of course there is a lot of leeway there to change the job if as long as it's the same or similar job, but that leeway doesn't exist before the approval or filing of the I-140. So you pretty much have to file then a new perm if there is a change in the job title
Mhm.
as well, because the wage might change.
Okay, okay. Well, thank you so much, Prashanthi, for addressing this as well. And quickly, I'd like you to also let's address Unnati's question since we missed it earlier. Sorry, Unnati, for keeping you waiting so long. Unnati is saying, I just registered for the H1B lottery this year, but I keep hearing about how competitive it is. Realistically, what are my chances of getting selected? And if I don't get picked, what are my options to stay in the United States legally?
Um, well, um, the chances of getting picked traditionally for over the last few years has been about 30%, not including that 1 year, the 2024 fiscal year when there were so many duplicate registrations filed. But in general, it's about 30%, 25 to 30%, and we're expecting it to be the same this year, even though people are saying that there might be less registrations this year because the fee has gone up. Let's wait and see. But there's still a demand in the industry, and this demand is genuine. It is, we're not considering those frivolous registrations that people are filing, and there's a lot of fraudulent registrations people are filing by just taking money. Uh, um, so I don't know, maybe there will be less filings this year because there's an increase in the fee. We have to wait and see. But in general, over the years, we've seen that the pick rate has been about 25 to 30%. That means about, there's been about 300,000 to 400,000 cases filed.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for taking that up for Unnati. And now let's take up Rekha's question. I am on an F1 visa with OPT expiring in June. If I get picked in the H1B lottery, how do I bridge the gap until my H1B starts in October? Will cap automatically apply, or do I need to take a few extra steps?
Cap actually automatically applies,
Okay.
and you don't have to worry about October because, as per the new H1B regulations, your cap extends until the next year of April.
April.
So even if your H1 doesn't get approved by October for some reason, as long as you're filing a change of status, of course, then your cap continues to be in place until the H1 gets approved, until next April at least.
Thank you, Prashanthi, for patiently addressing all our viewers' questions. And I think with that, we've covered each and everyone. So, thank you everyone for joining us with your questions. I wish we had more time because there are so many frequently asked questions, and I think Prashanti will have to save some of the questions for the coming week or so. And I hope that you will join us again.
Yes.
Since it's the H1B season, there's so much to discuss and there's always less. I think the more we have, the lesser it is. So, yes, with that said, thank you, Prashanti, for joining us today. And if you have any end notes before you leave us today, what would you like to say?
Um, I think we should discuss H1B regulations, H1B registrations, and H1s since there seems to be so much interest. uh, have another show on it and continue with we have a lot of questions that have remained unanswered. So we'll be happy to answer that in the next show. And in the meantime, please be aware of the dates. We only have this week and then the following week because even though the registration period closes on the 24th, which is Monday, you can't consider that as a full day because it closes at 12 noon EST. Please keep that in mind. So I think you have to file your registration either this week or next week. And then you have the weekend coming as well.
Yes.
So you lose the weekend. So it's not really, you only have, I would say, 5 working days other than this week. So that's counting today, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, 8 working days remaining to file your registration, which is not a lot of time.
Well, when you put it like that, Prashanti, it gets scarier. But thank you so much for the heads up and all the best, friends. Register quickly. Don't wait for the last moment, and especially not for the 24th of March. Okay, try to do it before that. And yeah, all the best.
Also, I just wanted to point out that if you wait until last moment and if there's some issue with your registration, it cannot be fixed. If it gets denied due to some issue, and you do it, it gets denied before the registration window closes, no problem. You can just refile the registration again.
Mhm.
You won't be able to do that if you're filing it in the last minute and the registration gets denied for some reason. Maybe the payment didn't go through, or maybe you didn't do something correctly,
Mhm.
and it gets denied after the registration window closes, then you're in trouble. You have to wait for next year.
Yes. Thank you, Prashanti. Thank you for those very important points to keep in mind. And don't wait for the last moment. Once again, I would like to say. So, thank you, Prashanti, for joining us. And we will continue this discussion in the coming week for sure. So, stay tuned, friends. Watch out for Immigration Talk Show. Subscribe to our handle and also hit the bell icon so that whenever we have discussions, you are notified and that you can join us. So thank you, Prashanti, once again. Have a great day ahead. See you soon.
Thank you.
And
Take
yeah,
care.
you too. Folks, you can also contact Attorney Prashanti Reddy, and maybe you want to speak with her regarding your case. You can call her on her number 212-354-1010. And you can also email Attorney Prashanti Reddy at prashanti@reddyesq.com and go visit www.reddyesq.com to get to know more about the law offices of Prashanti Reddy. Once again, thank you. And if you want to email me also, you can email me at neep@staffingly.com and call me or WhatsApp me on my number with regard to your questions that you have. It's best to leave me a WhatsApp message, so that I can check them out and also forward them accordingly. So my number is 408 335 6444. Thank you once again and subscribe to Immigration Talk Show. Check us out not just on YouTube, but also on LinkedIn, Facebook, X, and Instagram, and stay connected. Bye for now, but stay tuned because we have a lot more coming on Immigration Talk Show.